You are now listening to the Pancakes and Powerslams show by Crave Wrestling on Blog Talk Radio. Be sure to follow Crave Wrestling on Twitter at Crave Wrestling and join the Facebook fan page Crave Wrestling.
359 episodes, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Pancakes and Powerslams show. Indeed. We are live at Living Culligan, funky like a monkey, if you will. And I am Chris Featherstone, as always. Join us on Crave Wrestling Twitter and at Crave Wrestling Twitter, and join us on the Facebook fan page, Crave Wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm having this person on live right now. Another live Q&A for you. You're welcome because I like the PNP Nation so much. Bring you live Q&As. So in return, do that. Boom. Join the Patreon. In return, and the address is right there. Boom. So I put some work in for y'all to bring this person in. I've had him on my show before, and it was an interview. This time is going to be a live Q&A. So you're going to have a lot of interaction, and see where there's already a lot of interaction in the chat. We're going to have some fun. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, he's Eastern Time. I'm Eastern Time. It's late. So let's do this. Chris Masters, how are you tonight, sir?
What's going on? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. And for those listening live, Chris and I, we've been chatting quite a bit over the past week or so. And we both were excited about tonight. Excited about him being on the show tonight, and he told me, man, this weekend he was mildly injured during a match, right?
Yeah, I took a bad kick to the throat. So if you have any trouble understanding me, I basically lost my voice, but I'm trying my best here for you, and I'm happy to be back on Pancakes and Powerslams. Good to talk to you again.
Likewise, Chris, and what city and state was it? So what happened, man? Was it? I mean, of course, I'm sure it wasn't like a legit shot in the neck, but how did it happen?
Oh, I'm not going to reveal who did it, but I took a kick. I came off the second rope, and my opponent put the boot up, caught me in the neck, and then my neck actually whiplashed back, and I got a concussion as well. So that's the price of pro wrestling sometimes.
Oh, yikes. Got a concussion, too. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Man, so...
Yeah, I had a headache over the past 2 days.
Yikes. Are you shelled for a while now?
Well, I do have to go to India this weekend, so there's no canceling that, but I'll just have to be careful and not take any headshots.
Yeah, be careful, man, because I know that it's even a hazard to fly when you have a concussion, so yeah, take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's the life of a pro wrestler, I guess, right?
Yeah, yikes. Man, that sucks. So what's your recovery start?
It happens, man.
What's your recovery looking like?
My girlfriend's actually a physiotherapist, so that helps out a lot. So
sure.
She's been doing various things to help it out. She's got this stem thing that you actually run along your head, and acupuncture, all kinds of little things. But I mean, mainly it's just trying to rest and not doing anything that's too physically, that's too physical up until I wrestle, at least.
Yeah. Well, let's get into these questions so we don't keep Chris for too long. So let's see how we're going to do this today. So it's usually Ask Chris for me every week. So let's just do Ask Chris Masters. I'll put the hashtag on there. We'll just do Ask Chris Masters. And yeah. And so GHP is saying salute Chris Masters for mastering through the interview, pun intended. So hopefully that brings some levity to your night, to your how's your head? I mean, do you still have a headache right now?
No headache. Actually, today the headache subsided, so that's a positive note. But my voice is slowly coming back. It was much worse yesterday, so this is actually much better.
Definitely. Well, that's good. That's at least there's progress there, so that's good to know. So let's have some questions here. Mahmood is asking, ask Chris Masters, who created your character as the masterpiece?
Well, I've told this story a few times, but as most people know, my real last name is Mordetsky. Mm-hmm. And when I got signed to WWE and went to OVW, they immediately changed it to Masters. And then maybe a couple months thereafter, I was hanging out with Matt Morgan and a few others from OVW, and Matt Morgan actually came up with the idea of Masterpiece, Chris Masters. Nice. And it was all kind of playing to the body type Rick Rude, type Paul Orndorff kind of characters. So, and then from there it evolved into the Master Lock and in WWE.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's that, like you said, a Rick Rude, Paul Orndorff type of character, and I think Paul Orndorff, although he's in the Hall of Fame, I think he's overlooked a lot in just the annals of pro wrestling history. I think he's overlooked because he was such a big contribution to the advent of the Saturday night's main events, fame with Hogan, team with Hogan, turning on Hogan. And, I think just really the mid 80s to late 80s, a lot of people, he was big then, but just the overall landscape of pro wrestling history, I think Paul Orndorff is underrated to me personally. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think I was just going to say the same thing. I think he was a really big deal throughout the 80s, and I can only think that WWF at the time really took off maybe towards, even much more towards the late 80s and 90s after Paul Orndorff, so maybe that's why he might be overlooked to a lot of people. But, yeah, he was heavily involved in a lot of the early Hulk Hogan stuff. Mm-hmm. So, I know that Vince McMahon held him in a high regard. So, because as soon as I came in, he was drawn to me because he felt like I resembled Paul Orndorff. So, he was definitely a big thing.
Yeah, certainly. Wild Boy's asking, did you enjoy tagging with Carlito? Oh, looks like we lost him. We'll gain him back here. All right, so as Chris calls back in the studio, looks like his call dropped, but we're live, pal. There he is, back on the scene. And he's back, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Masters.
Damn technology.
All right, so let's see.
I hung up on you. I couldn't take it anymore.
You couldn't take it anymore. So somebody asked about Carlito and it made you hang up. Come on, Chris. Wild Boy's asking, did you enjoy tagging with Carlito? And this time, don't hang up.
Absolutely enjoyed teaming with Carlito, and we always look back, and I don't think we even really got to scratch the surface of what we could have done up in WWE. I thought we had really great chemistry in terms of the pre-tapes we did, in terms of even the in-ring matches. It was just a lot of it was very entertaining, I think, watching him and me go at it. Yep. And I really enjoyed working with him up and down, whether it be in WWE. I've worked with him a lot, even on the independent scene over the last few years, and it's always a good time when Carlito's around, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Someone's asking me a trivia. Ask Chris who was the first person to break the Master Lock. That was Bobby Lashley, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Bobby Lashley was the guy who broke it, and it never recovered after that, quite honestly.
That's a good point. Yeah, the potency of the Master Lock. So, what are your thoughts on that? Was it scheduled? Like, how did for it to be built up for so long to be an unbreakable move? And of course, if anybody would break the Master Lock, Bobby Lashley totally made sense because he's a monster. But what was the plan with that, though, as far as just Bobby breaking it, and then were you supposed to kind of rebuild yourself and just go back to the Unbreakable? What was the point of that?
Well, you know, I don't think they were too worried about necessarily what I was doing at that point because, well, first of all, Bobby definitely from a physical aspect was the right guy in terms of size and whatnot. But I think it was primarily because at that time they were building Bobby towards that match with Donald Trump and Vince and all them. And, I mean, you kind of know how it goes. Like, usually somebody's got to take a fall in order to build somebody for a big program or a big marquee matchup like that. And, you know, they just probably figured that that was the right time. And that was exactly the amount of juice that Bobby needed going into that match. So, I mean, that's the conclusion. They don't actually come out and tell you anything like that, but, you know, you can kind of, you know, read between the lines and see what's going on and what they're building towards.
Yep. Again, the hashtags are either Ask Masters or Ask Chris Masters. Either one of those work. We've got a Chris on this. We got another Chris on the show today. Usually, Ask Chris is
too many Chris's.
Yeah, that's what they usually use for me when I get I got the best chat room ever, and they ask me questions every week. So usually you have the hashtag of Ask Chris. But
so now it's just confusing as hell.
Yeah, so we'll either do Axe Chris Masters or Axe Masters. Either one of those works. So let me just read through these here. Mo is asking, do you have any interest in joining AEW?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I'm still obviously doing professional wrestling. I don't think you can close the door to anything like that. I mean, it's a very interesting wrestling world now. It's very popular again. It's very nice to see All In being a great success has been good for the whole business. I can tell you personally because I've worked every weekend pretty much over the last year. So it definitely shows that the wrestling business is in a good place. And I wouldn't say no to any opportunity that comes along, whether it be WWE, AEW. You know, I'm not necessarily striving to make a return to WWE or anything like that, but you can't really close the door to anything like that. If it comes along, you at least got to listen. You have to entertain the idea, and you know, it'd just be stupid to say otherwise, really, if you want to continue doing this line of work.
That's a good point. Very good point. Got some good questions here. Blaze is asking, if you could face someone of the NXT roster, who would it be and why?
You know, I'm kind of out of the loop with who's on the NXT roster, but I would say I know there's that guy Black who's from the UK originally, who's on the UK or on the NXT roster now.
Alistair Black.
I was very fond of him when I. Yes, exactly. So when I met him in Germany, he's. That's it. Yeah, Tommy, and that's what I knew him as. I didn't know what his alias is in WWE, but he was a tremendous guy and a hell of a talent. And him, and then obviously they got Ricochet up there. They have the Champ. Yep. So any one of those guys would be great.
Yeah. If you could come back for another run as Chris Masters, who would you want to face on the current main roster?
Well, I'm partial to this guy because I've had great matches with him in the past. Drew McIntyre. I've always thought that he was a phenomenal talent, probably one of the best in-ring guys, very physical, but in the best possible way. And he brought out the best in me every time I worked him. And so to work with him, for me, would be a guaranteed great return because I just know that we have the same mentality when it comes to wrestling, and I just know that we can go out there and put on a hell of a match.
Gross is asking, what was the atmosphere like at WrestleMania 22?
Oh, man, it was amazing. Just the ultimate adrenaline rush, the ultimate high. It was, it was the ultimate thrill. It's everything you could have ever wanted. Growing up, loving this business, wanting to get into pro wrestling, and then, it kind of culminating in that experience. It was definitely one of the highlights of my career, along with obviously a few other matches around that time. But I just remember it, like I said, when I walked down that ramp, it was everything and more of what I expected.
That's awesome. How do you feel about your return to WWE?
We were actually...
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You were actually...
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I want to hear more about WrestleMania 22.
Well, we were supposed to actually win the tag titles on that WrestleMania, but it did get switched on us within, I think, a day before, to where they were going a different route, where they actually wanted to split Carlito and me up. So, that goes to show everybody how kind of things change in the business just like that. You can never really count on something necessarily happening until it actually happens, even if they tell you so.
Very true. I remember you talking about that on the show last time, about how just the last minute decision was. Now, was it actually at Mania that they changed the decision, or was it like a day or so or a few days beforehand?
I can't completely recall. It was definitely either the day before. I'm thinking it was the day before, but it could have even been the day of. But I know that we were under the impression, and we were told that we were going over, and then it got switched most likely on the day before. But It's been a long time, and I've taken a lot of headshots, obviously.
Yeah.
So.
Very true. Wow, that's still. We talked about that on the show before when you were on, but. Still, even hearing that again, it was just that just has to be.
Man, I can top that, man. I've actually had finishes that have gotten changed while in the match, so that would go to show you.
Wow.
Yeah,
but weren't you supposed to? There was a singles run that they were setting up for you too. That they pulled the plug on, didn't they?
A few, almost like a few different times, but the first one was when I first debuted and that was when I fell into I had to go in for rehab, that 60-day rehab. So I was slated to win the Intercontinental title, and then basically that they pulled the plug on that one because I was going through personal issues at that point.
How do you feel about your return to WWE in 2009?
It was fun. I had a good time. I got to really work on my craft in terms of becoming a better in-ring wrestler. Obviously, I didn't get the push that I got from the first time around, which was unfortunate. But I was still basically on every house show, every weekend, and working like a tremendous amount of dates. So, a lot of good, but then a lot of bad too at the same time, with just not being used and being frustrated with that aspect. But I just tried to channel that as much as I could and make use of the time that they were giving me on the B show. At that time, I think it was, what was it at that time? It wasn't Sunday Night Heat. Yeah, Superstars. So the beauty of Superstars is you get a lot more time to play with in terms of match. So, a lot of guys go out on SmackDown and they're told they have, 6 minutes. They get to Gorilla and then they end up only having 4 or even 3. So on Superstars, I was able to have, a legitimate 2 segments to work with and really expand upon my in-ring craft and work on storytelling and being emotionally invested, all those little things that really help you have a great match. And, it really kept me going.
Yeah, I remember last time we talked, you were talking about how you actually enjoyed that babyface run while you were competing at Superstars because as a heel, you don't have to necessarily be a good wrestler. You have to be a good character to set up a good babyface to carry the load a lot, and so like the thing is with a babyface, typically the babyface has to be the good wrestler most of the time, because from a traditional standpoint, a lot of the heels were the big guys who could barely even move, like the Andres and the Bundys and the Studs and the Earthquakes. They were the big intimidating bad guys. They had that larger than life character, as while the Savages and the Bretts. In the Steamboats, they were the baby faces that carried the load a lot, and in Superstars, I saw that with you playing that babyface character with really using your athletic ability. As a heel, the masterpiece character really carried a lot of your persona, but when you had that babyface run and competing in Superstars a lot, we got to see your athleticism as a babyface, and that's really kind of the silver lining, and you didn't get the opportunity, but at the same time, you did get to work on your athletic ability and your in-ring ability. So, glass half full. I guess that's the way to do it. So,
yeah, definitely.
GHP is asking, being a wrestler on the road, sometimes eating habits can be a little unhealthy. What are some of your food choices?
Well, a staple for a lot of the wrestlers, actually, funny as it sounds, is Waffle House. And that's because Waffle House is always open. It's convenient. You can get steak and eggs at any time of the day. And, and having steak and eggs is much better than going to McDonald's or Burger King, for instance. So,
that's a good point. Yeah.
That is something that we ended up hitting up very often.
Yeah. Jerry's asking, how do you feel about the current guys on the WWE roster being so small? Back then, guys like you were considered big. Now these little guys are competing, and it's a joke. That's what Jerry said. That's I'm saying verbatim what Jerry said. I don't know if you and I necessarily feel that way, but it's a question.
It's just a new day. I mean, everything evolves in life, and it's definitely a different. You definitely see a different types of guys in pro wrestling that you'd ever see, even back in my kind of era. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I can really form an opinion on it. I'm not saying I dislike. I'm not saying I like. It just seems like a completely different product almost. Like pro wrestling has changed a lot.
Yeah, it has.
And there doesn't seem to be as much emphasis on everybody being, 6'5", 280 pounds as much as it was in the 80s or the 90s or even my era. Mm-hmm. So, it always comes down to the consumer. I mean, if wrestling is still popular and drawing the numbers it used to, then you can't really argue with it. But if it's declining, then there might be an argument for what he's saying. There might be an argument to bring in guys. Because when I broke in, it was all about, even if people didn't know who you were, you at least standing out if you walked into a restaurant or walked into a bar, or at least looking like you could kick anybody's ass in the restaurant or bar. And, that's the argument a lot of people put up is, with a lot of these guys, it doesn't look like they look like average guys. So, again, it just depends on how that's working in, this world of pro wrestling. And I haven't seen the ratings recently. I don't know particularly how it's doing, but I mean, it seems like the product's still strong regardless.
It is from a digital standpoint. Ratings wise, it's reached like historic lows, unfortunately. Around Christmas time, it's dipped really bad. It was actually under 2. And it's been quite on the decline. Vince McMahon actually just recently did an interview.
Well, then there might be something to be said for that,
Yeah, and it's not really trending up much. It's really struggling to even make 3 at this point. 20 years ago, it kind of camped around the 6 mark, and now it's really struggling to even make 3, half of that. So, I think Jerry has a point here. The little guys competing, and it's a joke. There's some, like a Daniel Bryan is a little guy, but his character's still pretty good. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen with WWE's product is that it's not very character heavy anymore, and I think that's something. I think that's a foolproof plan to have a successful product in a lot of times, because as much people want that in-ring action, it's still a comic book come to life. That's what I call professional wrestling. And I think it's important to really continue and keep that character aspect, because people are coming to see, they're not coming to see like guys in tights just kind of wrestle around with each other. They're coming to cheer and to boo.
They want to see larger than life personalities.
Absolutely, 100%. So I think when you take that away, you're just really taking people's interest away to even invest in a product. So that's just my opinion. Let's see. Sports Huddle's asking, I got a few questions for you. We don't want to keep Chris too long. Let's let him get some rest. Yeah, so he rests that throat, man. Let's see. We've got there was a really good one here. Sports Huddle was asking. Okay. Would you like to work as a producer or trainer one day in the pro wrestling industry?
Well, I never thought about that until much recently when I saw Sean Navarre got hired and Hurricane Helms got hired and Jeff Jarrett got hired. Yeah. And, I had talked to Sean Navarre and he told me what a great time he was having. And I never thought about it until recently. And actually, it is something I would definitely be interested in. I definitely love the art and the craft of what we do. I love the creative process of it. I like being involved in it. So that's definitely something I've thought a lot more about in terms of the future and what I can possibly contribute towards pro wrestling. And I think being a producer would actually be a lot of fun. And I think it would be a way for me to apply my brain, in the wrestling world rather than just, just actually trying to physically wrestle myself for the next 20 years, for instance. So definitely something I'm interested in.
Yep, absolutely. Good question here. Whether Masterpiece worked in a new version of Evolution, or I'm going to even reword that question. Would the Masterpiece work in the original version of Evolution?
Well, there was rumors at the time that I might have been involved in that, and that would have actually been really cool because they did a really good job with that group. I mean, who am I to say if I would fit in it? I mean, I was travel buddies with Randy Orton for quite a while, so I'm sure there's that aspect. But Batista was awesome. I mean, everybody loves Flair, and Hunter is Hunter. He's the man in this business now. So I would be definitely honored to be in a position like that.
Yeah. All right, literally 2 more questions, guys. I apologize. I'm going to cut it off. Let's see. Okay, this one's good. How do you feel about Cena saying that you were the strongest competitor he faced in his career?
Well, that coming from Cena, that means a lot because I've seen Cena work out, and the guy is legitimately a mutant. I mean, we started in pro wrestling the exact same day together down in UPW in California. So I've kind of watched his whole process and watched him evolve into who he is today. And I mean, the guy is legitimately a beast. I mean, he when he goes in the gym, it's no joke. So for him to put over my strength like that is definitely a huge compliment. And I got to say, honestly, he was motivation for me because I saw how quick he had his success. But since we did start training the same day, I ended up getting injured. I fractured my ankle and I had to have surgery, but I always used Cena kind of as my, somebody I looked up to in terms of, let me kind of follow in his ways in terms of breaking into the business. And because he got signed shortly after I got injured. Mm-hmm. And, I kind of followed his process a little bit and worked on myself and then came back a couple of years later. So, any compliment from him is definitely an honor and very humbling.
Yep, certainly. All right, I'll end it with this one here. Name someone you had real heat with in the locker room.
Well, I'll always say that JBL was not the kindest person to me upon entering WWE. And I know there's a dynamic of, or at least back then there was a dynamic of, breaking in young guys and respect for your elders, which I had. But, I look at it now like it was, you were kind of sent, when you were sent to WWE, there were certain guys who were there to test you, and JBL definitely tested me. I mean, he made my life hell on those Tribute to the Troop shows. But we know eventually what happened to him on one of those Tribute to the Troop shows where he got knocked out by Joey Styles. So I think that story ended on a perfect note. And I would like to say I don't still hold a grudge to this day, but when I think about it, the way he treated me on some of those, it does still annoy me.
Mm. Well, you brought up Joey Styles, so that's a good point there. So, Chris, it's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah. Get you some rest, man. Thank you. I mean, listen, Chris, I really appreciate you, sticking, to your word and still coming on the show. You definitely did not have to by having a concussion and a jacked up throat. Still decided to, stay true to your commitment, man. Listen, you didn't have to do that, so I appreciate that very much, man. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Chris, thank you very much for having me on. I just hope everybody could understand me well enough.
Yes,
did I sound okay?
Yes, you did. There's a lot of comments telling you to feel better and commenting based on your comments. We just there's one comment that just said Joey Styles, oh my God. So they heard you loud and clear.
Well, hey, can I take 1 second just to plug social media?
Oh,
obviously,
yeah. I was definitely
on Twitter at Chris. On Twitter at Chris Adonis, and on Instagram it's Chris Masters 310. So just hit me up there for any questions, booking matters, interviews, anything like that.
Yes. I was definitely going to get there, and I also want to give you an opportunity to plug any dates you got coming up. You say you're going to India, and what else you got?
I'm going to India next weekend for Wrestle Square. I'm going to Pennsylvania on the second week of March. Possibly the UK on March 1st, London, and then Naples, Italy on the third week of March, and and then back to India again after that, actually. But I don't have the information on that India booking.
Wow.
So yeah, there's still a lot of work out there, a lot of international work too.
Yeah. You are now the international superstar, Chris Masters, Chris Adonis,
Mr. International, baby.
I like it.
International.
I like it, man. That's awesome. What are you doing for Mania weekend?
Actually, I did get booked for an independent. I don't have the information on hand, but I will be attending. There will be a show on April 2nd, I believe, that I'm booked on, and I'm going to do everything I can, obviously, to head over to WrestleCon, because that's always definitely a great event to go to. So look for me over there and come and say hi if you come down for the weekend. And again, April 2nd, there's a show. I don't have the information, but I'm sure you can find it. We can find everything nowadays.
Yeah, perfect. All right, sounds good, man. I'll be there doing coverage. I do coverage live on WrestleMania weekend, man. I'll shoot you a text.
Yeah, shoot me a text.
Sounds good, man. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on the show.
All right, Chris.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. All right. Thanks, Chris Masters, for being on the show tonight, man. Awesome stuff. Thank you so much. In the midst of a daggone concussion. Wow. Just the craziness of the pro wrestling business. Dude got a concussion this weekend, and someone almost crushed his throat, lost his voice, and he still stayed to his commitment to come on the show, man. That's, you know what? I haven't done this in a while, and I'm going to do it tonight. I'm going to give Chris Masters one of these applauses, man. He deserves it. Good stuff. Thank you, Chris, for coming on the show. All right. Well, we got the PNP Nation Mahmood is asking how he got it. He was at he had a match this weekend, he said, and he got kicked in the throat. It wasn't intentional, but he got kicked in the throat. So he got a concussion, and he lost his voice. So Wild Boy, yes, he is very humble. We've chatted offline a bunch, and he's a really nice guy. So yeah, it's a very, very nice guy. And hopefully, I'll send him a text during Mania because I do live coverage. I usually do it on the Wrestling Inc. Facebook Live, so I'll send him a text, see where he's at. Maybe we can do a live interview that weekend with him. So stay tuned. I usually do that last year. I texted. I'm good buddies with Lance Archer, so we did that. I did a live interview with him. I texted Billy Gunn. Did an interview with him last year live, and also did some indie work. Did an interview with Garza Jr. That was actually when Garza Jr. was there was some rumblings going on with Garza Jr. But that was almost a year ago, so we haven't seen anything much after that. So, but yeah, stay tuned. Of course, follow me at Chris Prolific. Follow Pancakes and Powerslams at Crave Wrestling. Join the Patreon. And again, man, I if you like these interviews, I cannot stress it enough. I put a lot of work in these interviews to have this product. See, this is what I've talked about this before. I was going to restrict the interviews on Patreon only, but I'd do it for you. So I came up with a proposition. I said I'll keep giving these weekly interviews. If I get more people to get on the Patreon, haven't had many more of the Patreon. So if you want to keep these interviews, I love giving y'all these interviews, but it takes a lot of my time. I'm a current PhD student, working on my dissertation on about to start the 4th chapter of 5, finishing up some loose ends on my on my 3rd chapter. About to start my 4th chapter out of 5, and so that is the bulk of my time working on my dissertation to become a doctor. I want to stay close. I want to stay true to my time frame. I want to get everything done and become a doctor by the fall. So I've been doing a lot of work with my dissertation. So I still make sure that I give you guys what you want. Get these weekly interviews. It's been like 3 straight years, every single week for like 3 straight years. I've had an interview. I had interviews before, like once or twice a month, but since 2016, I've had an interview every single week here on the show. So support the show. If you're looking at this, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, whether you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, Audio Boom, iHeartRadio, all the various outlets that this Pancakes and Power Slam show is on. Give to the Patreon if you really want to keep these interviews going. Like I said, that is the bulk of my week. That's the bulk of my life, other than being a husband and a father and a mental health specialist. That's what I do typically, and then, of course, a journalist. But the bulk of my life is getting this dissertation done. But I still make sure to put this show on and make it excellent and make it fun and exciting and interactive. The best interactive wrestling podcast in the world. And so yeah, if you could do me a favor, support the show, and give to the Patreon, as you can see right there. And so we can keep these interviews going. Because what I don't want to do is have to cease the interviews because of my time, and because I want to give you guys, I want to keep giving you guys a live Q&A. We got a live Q&A next week too set up. So just for me to keep them coming, for me to keep my time. Time is money. Seriously, time is money. So. Seriously, time is money. So I spent a lot of time putting this together, and exchange it for your support on Patreon. So that's my plug for Patreon. All right. There's some good stuff on the chat room right now. Lee says, good interview. Thank you. Gabriel saying, have a good show. Thank you. Thank you, Wild Boy. Prime example for us black man, brother. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate that comment. Proud of you, Chris, for working to be a doctor. That's amazing. Thank you very much. Always supporting, I always do since you set it up. Yes, Mo. I appreciate you, man. Kudos to Mo. What's your matter of fact? Since you are a Patreon member, what's your Twitter handle? Put your Twitter handle on there, Mo, so I can keep it on there. Give you some pub. There's some good reaction on there. Or ask Chris, what was your reaction when you saw Raw with Vince McMahon announcing Charlotte facing Ronda? Did you see it coming? Good question. I saw it. I didn't see that. I didn't see it coming like that. At the Mo 85. Okay, there you go. Good stuff. Sports Huddle's now signing up on Patreon. Hey, man, appreciate you, man. Kimbo saying good luck on your assignment. Pray everything works out as planned. Thank you much, man. Appreciate that. Big applause. Sports Huddle gets an applause. Signing up now for Patreon. So you get an applause when you sign up for Patreon. Also, this is what we'll do. We'll also have some live call-ins too. So for those people who are members of the Patreon, you'll have the opportunity to call in live and be a part of the show live. Of course, you already know it's a PG show. No profanity. Sometimes wrestlers slip some here and there, but every single wrestler that's been on the show has been told that it's a PG show. So the PNP Nation knows that as well. For those who are a member of Patreon, we'll start having some actual live call-ins for y'all to be involved in the live discussion as well, over the phone, recorded for the annals of history, for every single person to hear you be a part of the Pancakes and Powerslams show. So go join the Patreon. For those who are listening audio, it's www.patreon.com/pancakes and Powerslams. Mahmood, so I didn't see it coming like that, but I did know that there was going to be a triple threat. So we'll see how that goes. Somehow Becky's going to be inserted back in there. It is scheduled to be a triple threat match. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Gruss is asking, Ask Chris, will we change it to Ask Dr. Chris? My wife and my close friends will say that I'm a very humble and modest guy. It's going to be weird for people to call me Dr. Chris, to be honest with you. But I'm starting to get some encouragement. People saying, you know what, you've worked your butt off for so long, and I am amidst of, I think there's like 3% of black men that are doctors. So speaking of the elite, that is a very elite class. So I'm looking it up now. What percentage of black men are doctors in the U.S.? We'll check it out now. Live and live in color. Checking out the percentage of black men who are doctors in the U.S. I've looked at this a bunch of times. Let's see if there's any updated 19. So, So a lot of the data are surgeons. I'm not going to be a medical doctor. I'm going to be a PhD. I'm not going to be MD. I'm going to be a PhD. My doctor's going to be in forensic psychology. So maybe have a PhD in the U.S. Maybe that's a data here. Still not a lot of data. So obviously, 1.8%. Yikes! And this was as of less than a year ago. April of... Okay, so I'm seeing 6 points. So it's risen from 6.2% in 2005 to 6.5% in 2015. And so this is a government site. So usually government sites are more accurate than .coms. .govs are typically the most accurate. .coms, .orgs, not as accurate. .coms and .nets aren't as accurate as .govs typically. So, okay, here we go. Who earns a U.S. doctorate? Race and ethnicity. Here's the fun part of the Pancakes and Powerslam show. Actually, you can see this stuff. So I'm gonna let you see this stuff actually. So I'm gonna show it. Let's see. I'm gonna show it right here. Booyah. Let's see what we can get here. Let's pull it up. Let's enlarge it. All right, y'all can read that here. So here's it is right above my face here. Participation. Doctors earned by underrepresented minority U.S. Citizens and permanent residents. This is the National Science Foundation. Participation in doctoral education by underrepresented minorities or U.S. citizens or permanent residents is increasing, as evidenced by 31% increase in the number of doctorates awarded to blacks or African Americans over the past 10 years, and a 71% increase in Hispanic, Latino. Owing to these growth rates, see if you can see this. Yeah, there we go. Owing to these growth rates, right above my head here, the proportion of doctorates earned by blacks or African Americans has risen from 6.2% 2005 to 6.5 in 2015. There you go. So, as of according to the National Science Foundation, 6.5% looks like. So, there you go. I'll be a part of the elite, the elite. 6.5% of people who have of blacks have doctorates. So, good stuff. Fun stuff, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so let's see what we got here. Okay, yep. So I just said there. Gruss said, you put in the hard work, you earned it, and that title's due. Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate it very, very much. Slamcade. That's right. Speaking of that, man, again, it's weird to be called a doctor, but random question. What are y'all's careers? What do y'all do here on the chat room? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about careers. It's a random sidebar and talk about careers here. I know Wild Boy's a chef. I know he's a chef in Detroit. That's only about 3 hours away from me. I am Columbus, Ohio, as people know how much of a diehard Buckeye fan I am. And the funny thing is, though, I'm a diehard Buckeye fan, but I am also a diehard Duke fan, and I'm very upset because the last time we checked, it was 4 minutes to go, and we're losing by 8 points to Louisville, a 7-loss Louisville team. I'm a big college football fan. Whoa! Wait a minute. We came back. Oh, man. Before I got ready for the show, there was like a little over 4 minutes left. And we were losing by 9 points. It went up to like 66 to like 57. Whoa. We came back. We went on a 14-3 run with the 4 minutes left. That's Zion Williamson for you. R.J. Barrett, Trey Jones. I'm a huge Duke fan, college basketball. We came back and won by 2 points. That really made my night, actually. That is awesome. I am a happy man now. Because I was getting really upset. I was like, Louisville's ranked number 16. But, man, we struggling against a Louisville team. But, wow, we came back. That is awesome. That just really made my night. All right, so let's put some people over. See what we got. See we got careers. Kimbo says, Chris stay dropping facts. I appreciate you, man. Gruss, Rob Boy, yes, sir. You always welcome me here, brother. Yeah, man. You know I can't stand Michigan, but I like you more than I hate Michigan. So I'll make my way up to Detroit. It's only about a 3-hour drive. So when I'm heading that way, man, I'll tweet you and be a part of your chef art. I know it's an art when it comes to culinary, and I'll look forward to it. Gruss has been in the federal government for about 20 years. Whoa, that's awesome. Mamu says, hello, we're not even talking about wrestling. This podcast is so cool. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Sports Huddle was in college working to become a sports broadcaster. That's awesome, man. That is awesome. Sports. So what do you want to broadcast, Huddle? What's your sport of choice? GHP is going to Ashford University for computer tech. Nice. Packers and Green Bay Packers and Brooklyn Nets fan, and a father of a 7-year-old boy. Good stuff, man. Computer tech. We got to link up, man. I want to make some. Some upgrades. The 7-year anniversary of the Pancakes and Powerslam show is in April, so I want to make some upgrades for like a new season going into. My seasons are from April to April. So the 7-year episodes this coming April, it's usually right before WrestleMania. The Tuesday before WrestleMania is typically either Tuesday before or Tuesday after. The original episode was the Tuesday after WrestleMania. I've been celebrating them typically the Tuesday before WrestleMania because in 2012 WrestleMania was a little earlier than normal. I believe it was. The Manias now have become a little later because of Easter weekend being that weekend before. So we'll be celebrating our 7-year anniversary here on the PNP show the Tuesday before Mania. So what else we got? Mo's a cook in the U.S. Navy. Yes, Mr. Sailor. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you for serving this country very much. What else we got? Brandon's going to college. Well, he's in college working to become a graphic designer. Brandon, that's awesome, man. I'm a very novice graphic designer, very novice. My undergrad's in PR. It's in public relations, and I had to take some graphic design classes, more Photoshop stuff. So I'm a very, very novice graphic designer. So school, I would love for you to school me in some graphic design, man. That's awesome. Sports, how you're interested in football, basketball, or wrestling. Good stuff. Good stuff. I pray that you do have successful, that you are successful in all of those things. Cody is a machinist. Nice. Go a little bit more into that, man. What are you a machinist in? What do you do? That's good stuff, Cody. Thanks, Michael. God bless you, Chris, is what Michael said. I appreciate you, man. JSP says if I need thumbnails, you got me. That's awesome, man. Appreciate you. Cool, man. Yes, that's a really, really good point, Wild Boy. Look how many friends this podcast has made. Truly amazing. I agree with that. I agree with that, Wild Boy. Good stuff, man. We're PNP Nation is a family. 100%, man. Good, great comment. Michael's okay, you're in computer tech too, Michael. That's awesome, man. We need each other. Let the PNP Nation depend on each other and really use each other and help each other and to grow each other's dreams, man. I'm a big dream grower. Big dream grower. I love challenging people. I do that all the time. I'm a big challenger, specifically with my faith. And definitely with dreams as well. I'm a big challenger. I think I love to push people. So stuff like this, conversations like this, discussions like this, absolutely makes my day. I love seeing people dream. You know, I'm not a millennial. I'm a Gen Xer. But you got the whole YOLO thing. People use that just terribly out of context, but you do only live once when it comes to the fact that you just, there was this, I'm really big into, to really very indelible, preachers, like some good ministers that can give you a really good word. There's this late minister, his name's Miles Monroe. He, there's some things that he said that were a bit off, but he was a really good orator, and I saw him live. This is probably close to 15 years back, and he said that the biggest area where dreams are at. I'm paraphrasing, but he said the biggest place where dreams are is in the grave. Because there's so many people who don't die empty. He said you have to die. He says that all the time. He said when he just passed recently, a few years back. But he said you have to die empty. You have to make sure that your dreams are manifested because they're God-given. You have to die empty. There's so many dreams right now in the grave that will never resurface, because there were so many people who lived their life and did not maximize their potential. So that was almost 15 years ago, and that stuck with me, man. You have to die empty. You have to manifest your dreams. Someone's life, someone's growth is depending on you. Someone's destiny is depending on you. So there you go. Got a little preachy there. But yeah, that's a really good word of advice, though. Just die empty. Don't take your dreams to the grave with you. What in the world can they do in the grave? Then just sit there. All right, so let's see what else we got here. All right, cool, guys. Cool. Let's talk about some wrestling, right? Michael, you built your desktop, man. That's awesome. Michael said you really love this podcast, man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get into some headlines. Here we go. On a somber note, ladies and gentlemen, Pedro Morales. We lost Pedro Morales, unfortunately. He was 70. How old was Pedro Morales? I think he was 77 or 76. Really broke some barriers. Really broke some barriers in WWE. Just for the Hispanic community. I think I'm trying to figure out how old he was. I think it was either 76 or 77. But yeah, I was able to get the Intercontinental Championship. Okay, so he was 76. He would have been 77 in October. Born in Culebra, Puerto Rico. So yeah, he was Puerto Rican. And yeah. Retired in 1987. Wow, it's been that long since he retired? That is crazy. Time is just flying by. So he retired in 1987, so he was 45. Interesting. You know, it's funny because I was seeing that, like, sometimes people retire when they were like in their mid to late 40s, and a lot of people are still going nowadays. I wonder why. Maybe the athleticism is a little bit better now than it was before, because, like, for instance, Triple H will be 50 this year, in July, I believe. Jericho will be 49 this year in November, I believe his birthday is. Batista is, I think he was born in January of 69, I believe. So I think he just turned 50 in January, if I'm not mistaken. Goldberg's it'll be 52 this year, so he was 45, looks like, when he retired. No, he debuted in, so he was 45. He debuted in 59, retired in 87. So he debuted when he was 17 and wrestled for 28 years. So that's awesome, man. Got his break in the WWE 1970 under, of course, Vince Sr., the World Wide Wrestling Federation. Won the United States Championship in 71. Interesting. Talk about a meteoric rise. It was less than like 6 weeks after he debuted. Let's see. So he debuted November 21st, 1970. He won the United States Championship, the WWF. GHP, thank you. Be sure to drop a like and a comment on the stream. Thank you so much for that. So January 7th, 1971. So that's about 6 weeks. That he won a title. That's pretty interesting, man. It seemed like WWE is really trying to, go international there. So goes to NWA, goes to the AWA for a year, championship wrestling for Florida in the late 70s. New Japan. I didn't know he was interesting. So he made a tour in 78, so it was just a short run in New Japan. I don't know if I ever knew that he was in 70, that he was in New Japan. So he returned in 1980 and won the tag team championship with Bob Backlund in 1980. Again, a meteoric rise, because he came back after being gone for a few years, and just in months he won the tag team championship. So that's pretty cool. Won the Intercontinental Championship in December of 1980. So that's really cool. The first man in history to be a Triple Crown winner. That's super, super cool. Trying to figure out what year he was WWE champion. Let me find out. WWE champion. Let me find out. Let's see what we got. Pedro was champ February 8th, 1971. And he had it for 1,027 days. So other than Bruno, he was the longest reigning champ he was the longest reigning champ other than Backlund and Bruno in the 70s. And then Hogan, of course, in the 80s, he had it for 4 years. So really good stuff, man. Pedro Morales, ladies and gentlemen. Good stuff, man. Definitely left a legacy. 76 years old, man. And prayers go to the family in a really tough time. And it's definitely, it's definitely good to leave a legacy, to be 76 years old and be known for so much of the impact that he's made in the WWE, just from an international standpoint, and just being the first Triple Crown champion, man. So good stuff. Appreciate the contribution of Pedro Morales, and again, praying for the family in this really tough time. All right, so y'all are talking about some scores here. What are y'all talking about in here? Yeah. Ken is saying him and Bruno were among the best of the 70s. Yep, absolutely. All right, cool. Ask Chris so I can. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on in the chat right now. Ask Chris if you have any questions. I think they're talking about basketball now here, which is awesome. All right, next we got so Kenny Omega. What did y'all think about the ticket party last Thursday? I watched the ticket party, and it was interesting. I was expecting Kenny Omega to be a part of the show, but he came in as the executive vice president. So he was the fourth. So he's now the fourth executive vice president. I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. 4 executive vice presidents, and I mean, I really want AEW to succeed. I think the ticket party, I think that was fun. I think it was a fun type of feel to it. But again, I didn't see, Eric Bischoff brought up a really good point of like, man, someone would be just ridiculous to think that AEW could really compete with WWE. So I don't really know their angle, honestly. I don't know their angle. Now I support AEW. I get all types of media stuff from them. So cool, kudos to AEW. Me as a journalist, I appreciate you, emailing me all the media stuff, and so cool. I'm cool. I'm buddies with Christopher Daniels, so I definitely support the heck out of him. I've had him on the show. I've had Hangman Page on the show. Looks like he's they're trying to make him be one of the top guys in AEW. The match between him and Pac should be pretty cool. Double or Nothing. They sold out, so I'm all for that. They've got a movement going on. That's quite clear that AEW has a movement going on. So the bar is set pretty high, and a lot of times, man, when you're in those positions and the bar is so high, You got to deliver, because the expectation is just skyrocketed for you to just have to live up to the hype. So yeah, there's some high hopes for Double or Nothing in Las Vegas in May. Some very high hopes. And you know how, as Daniel Bryan would say, fickle wrestling fans can be. With all this hype and all this big expectation, if the delivery doesn't come through, it can be a very bad sign with AEW. I'm hoping the best for them. I really hope that they do well. They need more star power, I'll be honest. And again, I don't know their angle. I don't know if I don't know if they're trying to be an alternative for WWE. They're not really trying to be an indie promotion, because you already have your indie promotions. They're not trying to be like, you have like an Impact and an ROH who are like, okay, so we know WWE's all the way over there, but we're going to be like the best number 2 promotion. We're fighting over the number 2 promotion right now between ROH and Impact. And then, of course, you have New Japan, who's just using the United States as an expansion because they're doing so good in Japan. They've cornered the market in Japan. They're using U.S. as an expansion, which is very smart too. So I don't know where AEW fits in that. They're not an indie. They don't have an indie feel. So that takes them away from like a PWG, CZW type of, feel to it. NWA, the NWA mostly do, they travel and they kind of base their matches at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and they've went to Japan recently, China, I believe, too, UK. So I saw they're not going to do that. They're not the traveling brand like the NWA is. I don't really know where they fit, to be honest. I don't know where the void was for them to fit. I'm really puzzled. I don't know exactly where they fit. So hopefully they have enough star power to just kind of carve their own spot, because that's what it seems like AEW has to do. They have to carve their own spot, because I just explained, you have the indie pack, you have the who's the best number 2 pack, you have the traveling promotion pack, and you have the expansion pack. So you have all the markets covered. AEW is just kind of like a hybrid, so they they have to carve their own pack. They have to carve their own spot. So Evan Tech Prout, the co-host with the most, man. Hey, yo.
What's going on?
Survey time.
Hey, yo, sorry, fans, I'm late to take care of some unexpected business in the background for my show. But I had to call on in. I'm here.
No worries, man.
Hey, with a lot going on in the world of wrestling.
Sure is.
We'll get to talk about it.
Yeah. So we're talking about just the you were listening as we were talking, as I was talking. Just the fact that they kind of have to carve their own spot, because a lot of the markets are already really covered. You have the you have the who's the best number 2 market. You have the expansion. Well, so you have the indie market with the PCWs and the MLWs and the
exactly.
in the PWGs, and then you have the who's the best number 2 market with the Impact and the ROH, and then you have the expansion market with the New Japan. So AEW really don't have.
You got the subculture with Liger.
Yeah, exactly. So they really have to so that's even more pressure, honestly. They really kind of have to carve their own spot when it comes into the world of professional wrestling right now, and so hopefully they do that. Based on the ticket party, they're bringing in indie people. They're bringing back Aja Kong, who's almost 50. And
yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah. So they were bringing in a couple other indie people, and of course they did the they did the promotion between Adam Page and Pac.
Yeah, he did that.
The spot between with Pentagon, Package pile driving Matt Jackson, that was an interesting spot, but I don't know. It's just
and then you got Cody teasing the mystery opponent. Not sure if you talked about that or not, but Cody's teasing a mystery. I don't know if mystery opponent or mystery tag partner. I think mystery tag partner.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, all the areas covered is where you gonna fit in at? Because it's pretty darn crowded right now.
Yeah. And then you had the face-off with Omega and Jericho, and everybody knows how big of a Jericho fan I am, top 5 all time. But we already saw Jericho lose to Omega at New Japan, in Wrestle Kingdom. So like it's at this point, it's like, okay, yeah, you get the face-off and you get the scuffling and the hold 'em back and stuff like that. But how much of a marquee feel does Jericho Omega have to the hardcore fans if, Jericho's notorious for putting people over, unfortunately, and we already saw him put Omega over, so it's hard to believe that Jericho's actually going to go over Kenny Omega. I don't see that happening. I'll be pleasantly surprised if that happened, but I don't see Jericho going over Kenny Omega. So it's like, what is that really being set up for? I don't know. I hope they do very well. But I don't know where they fit. So, Gruss is asking, would it be a better idea for AEW to directly compete with NXT? NXT, I think that would probably be the best angle, would be kind of like a competitor for NXT. Yeah, that probably is really the best angle. But even with NXT though, it still has a feel to it. Like NXT has an indie feel. It's like a glorified indie show. It still has that indie feel to it. So AEW seemed like it's purposely not trying to have an indie feel. They're bringing a bunch of money to the promotion to have like these big parties and these big events. 10,000 people at All In. So it certainly doesn't. If AEW, and of course, in order to get all the money that they're paying, they want to sell out big arenas. If you're not going to have all this money from the Khan family just to sell out, 2,500 seat arenas. If you want to make money from your promotion and keep people on the roster, so the goal is to have big gates for sure. Big television deals. There's some talks that there's 2 big stations right now that's closing in. But the goal is to, of course, you want to make your money back and profit heavily, and you mostly do that from gate, from the gate. So I don't know, man. I mean, in order to do that, you gotta have 7,000-8,000 seat events, on a current basis. You got to have. I mean, if you're paying, especially Jericho saying that he's, having a deal that he's never had before, and Omega, you have Omega and the Bucks turning down, high deals. Even I've even heard 7 figures for them. So if you're turning down that, I mean, you're getting some money in your pocket, and the Khan family is certainly going to be okay. So how are you making this money back? We're not just going to waste money in this project. You got to make it back. So selling out arenas, big seat arenas, in order to do that, you're going to have to maintain good momentum with this product. You can't make it have an indie feel, or you'll get an indie draw. You'll get an indie turnout. So you got to make it a big fight feel. Mm-hmm. You got to have the star power to keep, having events that draw a lot of people. So we'll really see how it goes.
Yeah, my thing is still, we want it to work. We hope it works, but it's so congested right now of the other companies going on. Where you going to fit in, and what are you going to do to make yourself stand out from everyone else?
Yep. Yep.
I had to throw in Liger because I love Liger Underground. They're different because they're like an episodic TV show with wrestling.
Yep.
But the RHs and the Impacts and New Japans and MLWs and PWG and Wrestling for California, all these other shows. What can you do that's going to separate you not only from WWE, but from all of the other 4, 5, 6 companies that you hear about?
Yep.
Mainstream.
Absolutely.
And I want them to see to do. It will take a lot of work. Jericho signed a 3-year deal. He has money. I know TV deal was in the works. I know that for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega's there now. Aja Khan, gosh, she about 60. So, like, dang, she still wrestled? Yeah. I remember her and doing the Monday Night War. She was about 40.
Right.
and I love her work. Like, dang.
Yeah, she's
and I got to give a personal shout-out to Nia Rose, a good person. I've known this wrestler for 6, 7 years. I personally watched them grow, and now they signed with AEW. So I gotta give a shout out. Gotta give a shout out to my buddy.
Nice, good stuff.
She was on Twitter a couple of days late, but
Yeah. Gruss is asking what wrestler would give AEW that big push to the mainstream. Kenny Omega is not mainstream. Yeah, I agree with you. He's not. He's fantastic, but he's not mainstream at the moment. That's for sure. We talked about this a few weeks back. I say Batista. I say Batista would be that name. I think Punk as a commentator would bring some interest to AEW, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say the interest would stay because he'd just be a commentator. The big name would be, Batista would really be the person because, he's Hollywood now. So that's really my only person I can think of as far as a mainstream name. Let's see. All right. So let's talk real quick. Let's talk about New Beginnings. I watched New Beginnings. Solid show. Very solid show. Wild Boy, do you think, Chris, do you think the Bucks will ever regret turning down that deal from WWE? It's really dicey at this point, man. It really is. I mean, there's been 0 AEW show, so we have no idea how this is going to go. So there's a big risk. I applaud the heck out of them for taking the risk. It takes some cojones to do that for sure from a business standpoint, but they're being fed money from the Khan family, which helps them. So it's a risk, but it's calculated, which is very smart, because the money that they're using is not their own bank account. So very smart, similar with Eric Bischoff and Ted Turner. So it's smart, but they've got to calculate them. They got to bring people. I mean, Khan's bringing the money. They've got to bring the people. So they've brought the people that they've sold out. You know, their parties, their rally was packed. Their party was packed. So they're bringing the people. The hype is there. It's just that, like I said, you know how wrestling fans are fickle, and if you don't have a product that sustains, they'll turn their back on you as quick as a Big Show heel turn. Quicker than a Big Show heel turn, actually. So we'll see. I'll let you all know if Becky wrestles, even though she's hurt for the storyline. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. On the 23rd. Okay. Yeah, let me know if Becky wrestles. All right, so New Beginnings. I watched New Beginnings. I enjoyed the show. As I talk about New Beginnings, go and put your Raw and SmackDown. Put your Raw and SmackDown grades on there as well as we talk about New Beginnings. Yeah, I thought it was a solid show. I enjoyed the junior heavyweight title match. Taguchi's a legend. And so here's my thing. When Ishimori, when he called out Juice and Thunder Liger, I've been a Liger mark ever since I was a kid. I've been a huge Liger mark since like the early 90s. And the guy's like pushing 60 at this point. And I don't know how old Liger. Let me see. I think he's like in his early 50s, maybe. Let me find out. So here's my thing. I think they said he was like 18-time junior champ. And I was like, you know what, man? I wish that the kid in me, I wish that this leads to a Liger Ishimori match at Dominion. So it can spread this out all the way until June. And so he'll be 55 this year. Liger will be 55 this year. So I wish that they spread this out to Dominion, and we have the feel-good moment because Dominion's like the second biggest pay-per-view of the year for New Japan. So my hope is that this sets up for, for me to have my kid again moment again, have Liger win the junior title again. It doesn't have to be for long, but have him win again. Why not? He's been junior champ. Let's see how many times he's been junior champ. 11 times. 11-time junior champ. 6-time junior tag team champ. Man, that guy's a legend. That guy is a legend. Light heavyweight champ. WWE light heavyweight champ. Really? Because I know they had the light. Liger was champ? Light heavyweight? Okay, he was light heavyweight champion in 1997. Okay. So won the light heavyweight championship. Because I know that they did. Okay, so it was. So the light heavyweight championship was in Japan a lot, in Mexico, in the 80s. So he won in the 90s too. So he had in 97, and then it was recognized by the WWE in 97 when Taka won it. So there you go. All right, let's and then of course, big fan of Okada's my favorite. Like him the match between him and Fale was good. I like the fact how they still it still meant something because I love the tandem of Kevin Kelly and Don Callis. That's probably my best my best announcing team in wrestling right now. And I like the fact that they were still playing on the fact that if he lost, he would be further away from the title scene. And Austin said something really good years ago on his podcast. He was like, the top stars are the people who somehow still keep themselves close to the world title scene. And he said, either you're in a world title picture or somehow you've been there's been a heel that's taken you away, that's distracted you from focusing on the title, and you break off and you have that non-title feud with the heel, but somehow they still kind of wrap you around to get back to the title scene. And then you have those throughout your career. You have the heels that kind of take you away from it, but you still kind of get yourself back into it. And I appreciate that concept, and I think it really shows. And we're seeing that with Okada now too. So they're plugging it as, he's been away from the title picture more than he's ever been. If he loses against Fale, he'll get even further away from it. But he beat Fale, so that kind of gave him momentum to get back to the title scene. So I like that. I like the little subtleties and the nuances when it comes to that. And so I mean, there was a lot of other matches that I thought it was a solid show altogether. But for time purposes, I do want to talk about Jay White winning the title. I was surprised. Yeah, I know it's evident that they wanted to push him to the moon. Last year he beat Kenny Omega, he beat Tanahashi, and he beat Kazuchika Okada. I mean, they wanted to push him to the moon. That's very clear. He beat Okada at Wrestle Kingdom, but it was just surprising to me that Tanahashi only had the title for a month.
It felt kind of rushed.
Yeah, it did feel kind of rushed. I don't know. Jay White has a ton of potential. I like his gimmick. I like the Switchblade gimmick. I love the heel gimmick. There's not a lot of true heels nowadays, and Jay White's definitely a true heel. I like all of that. It was just a little premature to me. Maybe Dominion would have been a better time to win it. But yeah, it felt a little bit rushed to me. So I wasn't a fan of that. But maybe he'll lose it at Dominion. So Gross is asking, will AEW be the new GFW? No, because GFW is trying to find a TV deal and trying to really come up from the ground, and they really never got a chance. Tony thinks Jay White's boring. Gruss thinks Jay White's a quick replacement for Omega. Well, Omega was a babyface when he left. So, yeah, I mean, he's really kind of like the replacement for Okada, because Okada, when he had that meteoric type of rise as a heel, and then he became the biggest babyface of the company other than Tanahashi. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm not sold on Jay White, honestly. Not yet as a top player.
Yeah.
I think he's really solid. I think he's got a ton of potential. Young kid. But not yet to me, honestly. So And then his Bullet Club affiliation too. Yeah, Huddle. He's the new leader of the Bullet Club too, and that was weird to me. That was weird. So, Perfect. I think that's pretty interesting.
How do you feel?
Real quick, Perfect says Kota Ibushi would win the New Japan Cup and lose to White at MSG. I can see that happening. What are you saying, Evan?
Just curious, your thoughts too, and even the fans. Now, I feel like hasn't the time passed for the Bullet Club? I think it then ran its course. And it's cool. Let it go. I know the merchandise still sells, but it's getting to the point where we're getting to the silver and black era of the NWO. My man Stevie Ray just had him on tonight. We jump up that the black and white NWO, the C level. It's starting to get like the Horse Hogan. It's like, can we get past it? It ran its course. I love the Bullet Club when it was hot, but I got some people. I guess it still has some life, so I guess they want to use it as a catapult for some newcomers. But
merch.
I'm like, just let it go. Please.
From a business standpoint,
if the merch is still selling.
Yeah, the merch is still selling, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from a business standpoint, they want to keep it going. I think there's still life in the Bullet Club. I think they still can have life in the Bullet Club. Kenny Omega leading it was good. They tried to do like the American version when Adam Cole led it, in ROH. So they had like the American Bullet Club with Adam Cole leading, and then the Japan Bullet Club with Kenny Omega leading. That was a bit odd to me. I think that was kind of like Wolfpack, and it was kind of like Black or White and Wolfpack to me. But yeah, I think if you have a good leader, I don't think Jay White doesn't really fit in the Bullet Club to me. Like his whole thing is to kind of be by himself, but him leading the Bullet Club. Tony's saying that Tama Tonga actually said that Jay White's the leader of the Bullet Club, so he's the leader. But yeah, I like Tama Tonga a lot too, actually. But I don't know. It's just weird to me. I just really don't see Jay White as the leader of the Bullet Club. I actually said I think Pac should have been the leader of the Bullet Club. I think they should have gotten Pac, because the thing is, you want to make the Bullet Club just be super duper heels with someone who can really put that character in there. I think Pac would have been a good leader of the Bullet Club, honestly. But yeah, all right. So Raw and SmackDown thoughts. I don't see any grades. What's your Raw? Okay, here we go.
Average.
Mahmood Raw C-, SmackDown Live C. Wild Boy Raw C, SmackDown A for Kofi. I agree with that. I loved what they did with Kofi Kingston on SmackDown, 100%.
Yeah, I'm glad he did that.
Yeah.
Wish AJ.
Yep, I was a big fan of that too. Raw was not. Yeah, it didn't woo me very much. The 6-man was boring. Can
everyone hurry up and leave?
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah.
Can we? I'm not against Ambrose, but I'm like, can we? Yeah, can you just hurry up and go to AEW?
He's just really
Impact?
being misplaced right now. Like you can tell that he's being.
And it's
misplaced.
not Ambrose's fault.
No, it's not. It's
not Ambrose's fault.
Yep, I agree. What else happened on Raw that was? Nothing really. The 6-man was a bit boring. It's tough for me to see Angle in the ring as a mid-carder. It's just really weird. You got a Hall of Famer that's just competing in the middle of the show on a Raw as in a 6-man match. That's terrible to me. Revival being new tag team champs, it seems like that was one of those. Hey,
Diddy, don't leave.
Don't leave. Hey, don't leave. Why are you leaving? First of all, we're going to put you on the Titantron in exchange for Chris Jericho. And second of all, you didn't get the memo that we're going to make you tag team champions.
We're going to give it a tag champions. Yeah.
That just totally seemed like, hey, we got something for you. If you don't go, we'll make you tag champs. That's exactly what I felt.
You know what that is?
Title.
It's like you make your wife mad or your husband mad. You just like, all right. Let me buy you some flowers. Let me get you some candy. Yeah. You know, let me buy you a pizza. Let me just, butter you up so you don't leave. I mean, the Revival has not been used well since they've been in the main roster. I don't know if it's really their fault, WWE's or both. Stay in NXT. They should have went to SmackDown, or just go somewhere else. They're not happy. They're not being used. And I like what they do, but Raw is the land of the giants. They look so small in the ring. Yeah. They're like little action. They remind me of the old Hasbro toys with the little wrestling ring. Remember those?
Yep.
That's what they remind me of in the ring. And I like the Revival, but, just my thoughts.
So, like I said, the ending was a way to put Charlotte in there. I'm not a fan of the triple threat, but I understand it because from what I heard, they're trying to they don't want Ronda to take the pin, so they're putting Charlotte in there to protect Ronda. When she comes back, she'll still have some drawing power. So that makes sense. I just don't want it to be a triple threat. But SmackDown was a lot different to me. It was solid. I give it like a B+. Like the gauntlet match.
Better than Raw.
I loved what they did with Kofi Kingston. And here's the thing, even before that gauntlet, even when Kofi Kingston was selected, I was like, you know what? I actually wouldn't be opposed to Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. Like, Kofi Kingston finally has his crowning moment. He's been the uncrowned tag team champion. I mean, he's been the uncrowned world champion. He's had his dues. He's been in there for 11 years. I would be okay with Kofi being WWE champ. Honestly, I mean, there hasn't been a black WWE champ. I'll be totally fine with Kofi being champ. With him, New Day usually have their big spot at Mania. I'm sure that Big E and Xavier Woods would be totally fine with coming out with Kofi at Mania. I'll be fine with it. I wouldn't have them feud with anybody in the New Day. New Day does not need to be split at all. They're going to make their Hall of Fame as the New Day, because if they break up, they'll go back into just oblivion again. The New Day was created because there were three characters who were doing just about nothing. And WWE will put them back there if they split. They don't ever need to split. All right, so real quick, we only have about 5 or so minutes. So let's get into the flavor of the week, and then we'll get into the predictions. Here we. Here we go.
It is now time for the flavor of the week.
All right. Elimination Chamber trivia. Quick. Daniel Bryan successfully defended the World Heavyweight Championship at which Elimination Chamber? That's the first one. All right, so let's talk about Taker's streak right quick before we talk about Elimination Chambers. Peter said you disagree. Think Big E had a good singles run. He didn't have a good singles run after his IC title. He went back into jobbing. He jobbed to Rusev a bunch of times, and that IC title was just a kind of a moment, but he went back into oblivion after that. 2012, good job. Whose voice is that for the flavor of the week? Axe out again next week, and you'll find out. Next, what was the first year Elimination Chamber became a pay-per-view? First year. I'll drop the card here. The pay-per-view, not an event, the actual pay-per-view. All right, so let's talk about the streak real quick. A couple minutes here to talk about the streak from 04 to 08. So WrestleMania 20 was against Kane. I love that. That was his
it was a good match.
Kimbo, good job. 2010. Yeah, I loved 04 because he was gone. He was still in the ABA character. He was kind of like in the You're Gonna Pay biker taker at that point. 03, and then he was buried alive. He came back, grew the hair out. Well, he grew the hair longer. It was still kind of neck level. But yeah, he went back to Dead Man Taker, so I was a big fan of that. So 05, 05 Randy Orton.
It was decent.
Yeah, decent match. It wasn't a lot of hype to it. The streak was, this is when the streak really became a thing. It didn't seem like Orton was going to break it, but in 05 and Orton, 25 years old, I think he was still 24 at the time. Big moment for Orton. So, kudos to that. 22 was Henry. Mark Henry, as Tony Atlas would say. Still someone who was like, okay, you're not going to beat the streak, but it was still a good opportunity for Mark Henry. It was a casket match. That's
for that match.
That's a good point. Good call. Good request, GHP. More brackets. Tweet me with bracket ideas. I like that. And then 2008 was Edge. That was a real good match. That was a
good one.
That was 2000. Okay. 2007 was Batista. There was actually some talk that Batista was actually going to end it, but I was glad that Taker won. But that match was pretty solid too. And then Edge was really good actually. That was actually one of his best ones. All right, Elimination Chamber. Let's tackle this real quick. Got like 1 minute left. Here we go. What was the first pay-per-view given 2 Elimination Chamber matches in one night? The first year was 2010. I think someone already got that. What was the first pay-per-view? Which was the first pay-per-view to have 2 Elimination Chamber matches in one night? All right. Real quick, Strowman versus Corbin for Elimination Chamber this year.
Strowman.
Yeah, of course. Lastly, in Rush versus Balor.
Lashley.
Yep, I agree. Rousey versus Riot.
That's easy, Rousey. Ronda.
Yeah, I agree. Buddy Murphy versus Akira Tozawa.
Buddy. They're gonna run with Buddy for a bit.
Yeah, I agree. WWE Championship Elimination Chamber match.
Oh man, that's tough. I'll turn over to you. Who do you think?
I think Daniel Bryan keeps it. Yeah, he's going to Mania.
Yeah, I was hoping they do something different with Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
I'll just keep on the title.
Miz O'Mac against the Usos.
I want the Usos to win. I just can't get with this Miz and Shane O'Mac thing. It's weird to me.
90 seconds.
I love Miz and Shane. I'm thinking that this may be where the turn is, where Miz turns on Shane and the Usos win. That could happen. We're going to see a turn, but it actually could happen there, or
maybe
it could happen
at a turn is coming.
It could happen at Fastlane. Actually, it might happen at Fastlane. No Way Out 2008. So good job. And then who wins the women's tag team titles?
60 seconds.
Who wins the tag team titles?
Is that correct? Is that Sasha, right? Sasha's in the main. Isn't it Sasha and Bayley?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said Sasha and Bayley.
I think a heel team's going to win it, and then Sasha and Bayley get their comeuppance. So maybe like a Nia and Tamina. Safe bet is Bayley and Sasha, but I think Bayley and Sasha may have their moment at Mania. Last one. What was the only pay-per-view to host an Elimination Chamber match for the ECW Championship, and who won? Two-parter, real quick. All right, ladies and gentlemen, 359 episodes in the books. Big thank you to Chris Masters. Great interview. Great time with Chris Masters. Good job, Mahmood. December 2006, Bobby Lashley. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, enjoy your week of wrestling. God bless. And always remember, I'll do it for you. Bye-bye.